Good afternoon, everybody, and Happy New Year. This is our first meeting for 2025. Thank you all for coming. We have a great attendance, voting and non-voting members. It's 2:24. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with a salute to the flag and a brief moment of silence, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. Just as a reminder, because of the open meetings laws, we have to, we are webcasting this meeting, but any business conducted can only be conducted in person at this meeting. Any members that are online, their votes don't count towards quorum or and they're not able to vote. Moving down the agenda, I've received excuses for today's meeting from Dr. Jatinder Singh, Dr. Caitlin Boehm, Dr. John Matthew, Dr. Robert Bermonti, and Vincent Papsadero. With the corrections of the attendance from 2024 by Dr. Rowe, who indicated that we made a couple of mistakes. I need a motion to accept the last year's attendance as mailed out. Okay, motion. Pearson. Anybody oppose? Anybody abstain? Okay, so we'll just make that approved. And then I need a motion to approve the minutes that were mailed out. Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay, great. So that passes too. Thank you very much for that quick business in and out. We got a lot of correspondence. Starting with the New York State Compliance Bureau. I just have to read them into the minutes. I apologize. So please bear with me. EMT Lindale Brunson, 165731 from Elmont, New York, subject to completion of 3 years probation, effective 1/6/25. Assessed a civil penalty of $2,000 for violation of Part 800-03 AN 800.15B. James Kozak, EMT 155805, certification is revoked. The revocation shall be stayed, contingent upon completion of 1 year suspension and no further violations of Public Health Law Article 30, Part 800 for a period of 3 years, and he was assessed a civil penalty of $2,000. Ariana Mortensen, 449785, revoked effective 1/7/25. Revocation is stayed pending successful completion of paramedic refresher within 24 months, a 3-year probationary period, and $2,000 civil penalty. The civil penalty was stayed. Empress Ambulance Service LLC for violations of Code of Regulations 800.21A, B and N, 800.22H, 800.23A, F, 800.24, B and B4, B6, assessed a civil penalty of $20,000. Carol Outer, EMT 468572, suspended for 1 year effective 11/26/24. Suspension is stayed pending successful completion of 3-year probation. Assessed a civil penalty of $12,000. Of that, $10,000 shall be stayed pending no further violations during the period of probation. For violation of New York Code of Regulations 800.16A, 1, 2, 3, 9, and 11. Okay, almost got the trifecta there. Stephen Stinson, 433772, suspended for 1 year. Suspension is stayed pending successful completion of 3 years probation. Assessed a civil penalty of $4,000. Of that, $2,000 is stayed pending successful completion of probation for violation of Part 800.16A1 and 2. Kadisha Garcia, 482007, suspended for 1 year effective 11/26/24. Suspension stayed pending successful completion of 3 years probation. Assessed a civil penalty of $12,000. Of that, $8,000 shall be stayed pending no further violations during the period of probation for violation of 800.16A1, 2, 3, 9, and 11. And I think I mentioned this last time. Chris Pelop, 167410, suspended for 1 year effective 11/22/24. Suspension is stayed pending successful completion of 1 year probation for violation of part 800.16A1. We received information regarding monthly call data. Thank you to Jim Amelia for sending that in. To the OLMC for radio and phone notifications rather than eBridge use. I have that data if anybody wants to look at it. Todd Higgins sent me an email offering assistance with eBridge expansion project, so thank you. Suffolk County EMS notification sent, Suffolk County EMS Division of Public Health sent a notification out regarding influenza and pertussis. We reached out to the Nassau Department of Public Health for a formal letter back, and they just agreed with what Suffolk said. We can get that letter too if you wish.
EMS.
And then we received an unfortunate letter from Dr. John Zazzo, who summarily resigned his position as both secretary of this committee, member of this committee, and chairman of the Quality Committee for personal reasons. This was received last week. That's all I have to report about that. There's more to discuss about that in new business. The Nassau Fire Commission EMS Committee Chair Lisa Gross sent out a notification about cold weather and equipment and personnel safety. There was a whole bunch of information on that. If you received it, please forward it to your personnel. Outgoing, we sent a letter to the New York State Bureau of EMS and Trauma Staff Division and the Division of Legal Affairs requesting follow-up from our meeting that we held in December. There was a phone call that followed that any opinions or updates won't be provided until April. So we have to wait 6 months because the meeting was held. It'll be a total of 6 months before we get an answer. I think that's a little too long. But there was also an outgoing letter for a request for monthly call data from OLMC, and we got it back, as I mentioned, in the incoming. We sent a letter to the General Devices eBridge folks because it was pointed out to the Airway Committee and then to Don and then to myself that the eBridge platform doesn't have a spot on their vital signs to document your pulse oximetry. So we had them added. They're doing the training platform, and then it should have every hospital's and every category of set of vitals uploaded and completed on the working app by next week. Don, is that what he said?
There was an email that just came in.
I think it should be by next week. So please look to see an updated version of the form with the pulse oximetry. Otherwise, continue to encourage your providers to type in the pulse ox data, as this is an essential part of airway assessment and oxygenation. So to the ED committee, we asked that where is the committee and local hospitals in the position on elimination of diversion? How is eBridge being received? Any pushback with use of advanced airway forms? What are the providers thinking on the hospital side? How are you guys doing on overcrowding this season? It seems to be not just local, but not just state, and it's regional, national, and international. So this cold flu season is really knocking the socks off of every ED. How is EMS helping facilities meet their core metrics for stroke, STEMI, sepsis, PEDS, and trauma? Is this an issue to worry about given from the ED perspective, and how can we help? Lastly, is there anything that EMS could do to improve communication or enhance patient care? Dana, if you need this, I can always just cut and paste, send it to you again.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So that's those are some projects. So Dana's got her work cut out for her when she's not busy doing her real job. So chairman's report, moving on. Any questions so far from the communication side? Great, thank you. From me, Happy New Year. I want to thank you all for your participation last year. I hope your families are healthy and well, that you're all doing well. This is the second year of the 2-year term. As we enter this, I want to thank you, and I hope we're as productive this year as we were last year, if not more so. Just remember that we need your assistance. This is not a committee of one, it's a committee of of everybody, both physicians and non-physicians. And all your input is welcome and needed. I also want to take an opportunity to, I already said thank you to Chuck on the way out. I want to welcome Dave Caldor, the new REMSCO chairman. He started his term in January, so welcome, Mr. Chairman. So if you ask for David, just be careful because there's like 10 of us now.
You can't even use DK initials.
Yeah, or DK. Yeah, you're gonna get, you might get some confusion. Just as an update, at the last REMAC, we voted to bring up an item to the New York State Bureau of EMS. Well, actually, it was a couple of REMACs ago. And then we met with the CMAC leadership and New York State Bureau leadership, and then they ultimately came down to Long Island to sort of have a REMSCO REMAC EAB leadership meeting. That's where that communication went back up to, that outgoing email went to those guys, because we wanted follow-up and closure on that meeting. And so we're still waiting, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that this is still an ongoing thing. It's not something that we're letting up on. You know, it's, we're trying to keep moving the needle a little bit more forward, and you'll find out, I have another consideration in terms of moving the needle forward, which is something I put under new business and for discussion, not for implementation. You know, when you come back from national meetings, I'm sure all of you guys feel sort of invigorated to come back full of ideas with research and things. So I went to NAMSP, and there were a lot of talks on the efficacy and the safety and the basically the use of emergency medical dispatch and providing pre-arrival instructions. And they showed study after study how it saved lives. They were talking about telephone CPR, pre-arrival instructions, getting properly coding a EMS call so that we send the right resource. So under new business, I'm gonna ask this body if it's okay if we start looking into that, making it a requirement that every PSAP in this region use EMD. Whatever brand of EMD, I don't care, it just has to be EMD. There's cheap ones, there's expensive ones. But I think if we start the care that we're providing to our patients in a more formalized manner, using data and quality research to guide the care in a scripted fashion rather than, okay, now, let's see, the cardiac arrest, what do we do? Oh yeah, so I'm an EMT, so I remember we gotta pull the person onto the floor, now start. So they're gonna follow a script. It makes the processing, the cognitive work of managing this critically ill patient with the dispatcher and the person who's calling, it offloads that stress and allows the person to just follow a flow sheet. So it's just something I want everybody to consider. The other thing is EMD will also help us achieve a NEMSQA. NEMSQA is the National EMS Quality Alliance. It's something that every state is participating in, including New York State. And one of the NEMSQA measures is the use of lights and sirens as a response to a call, as well as from the scene to the hospital. Lights and sirens is considered a medical treatment. It's a medical therapy, just like is defibrillation, just like placing an IV. It has its inherent dangers, and there's risks and benefits to it. And so there's a goal to try and minimize the use of lights and sirens, and the use of EMD will help you do that, because if you have an alpha or bravo response, you know that using science-based medicine, that alpha bravo was coded as an alpha bravo, meaning a less serious response, that the use of lights and sirens may not be necessary, especially if it's an alpha call. Maybe bravo or higher, we'll still use lights and sirens to get there, because we know that not everybody tells us the truth on the phone, and we may find something else when we get there. But that's something that we need to work on. Right now, we don't even have EMD in the county. So I think that we need to look at that. Just moving on, a couple more things. REMAC attendance for 2024, that was sent out. Please look at that list. When I look at the list, I saw there's a bunch of people. I think there were 6 docs or 5 docs that are, let's see, 6 docs that missed at least 2 meetings in 2024 without excuse. So if you have a significant number of absences, the bylaws say that if you miss 2 meetings in a row or more than half the meetings, you're considered, that you've left the committee. We don't like to do that. Our tradition in this committee is to ask you why, and if you want to continue to participate. We have a limited number of voting seats for the physicians, and we want people who can sit in that seat and vote to participate and be a member of the committee. You're welcome to step down as a voting member and become a non-voting member if you can't make the meetings. So please keep that in mind as we enter 2025. At the end of this year, we're gonna have a discussion about membership, and we'll be asking people if they want to continue or not. Lastly, I want to thank Todd Haken and NUMIC for hosting a great webinar. It was EMS and critical care. You guys have a whole bunch of great webinars, and I think they're phenomenal. I attended the critical care one, and it wasn't really a PowerPoint presentation. It was just a question and answer session, and it was wonderful. So thank you. It was, the way you guys published it and notified everybody was really great. So thank you. So if you guys see those in your emails, please log in and take them. If you have the time to do it. With regards to CMAC, the next meeting is coming up, so there's no report. Moving on to committee reports, QAQI, Dr. Zazo has summarily resigned, so there's been no committee meetings. With that, we have a bylaw that says that it's section 4 of subcommittees under the Article 7 of the REMAC. It says all subcommittees of the REMAC shall select their chairperson by a majority vote at their first meeting and biannually thereafter at a meeting to approximate the REMAC. So it also says all subcommittee chairpersons must be voting members of the REMAC. Just so that we could get the QAQI committee continuously moving, I'm going to ask Dr. David Silver to just be the provisional chair till the committee can hold a meeting. And then you guys can elect whoever you wish to be the chairman. But this way, is that okay? You're already you're doing quality stuff with Airway. I figure it's just sort of a natural step over. This way, the committee can decide amongst themselves who they want to be the chairman, but I'll leave it up to you to hold the meeting and then hold that election. So thank you for allowing me to appoint you. Surprise. Right now there's I think 5 physician members on that committee. So any one of you guys is eligible to be the chair. So that would be a great discussion if you guys didn't want Dr. Silver to continue. All right, so moving on. Any questions about QAQI? All right. We got to move down. All right, Airway, RSI. Dr. Newberg, Dr. Silver.
So we had a really good meeting prior to this one. We're gonna try to standardize meeting prior to the REMAC in each of every other month. So we discussed some confidentiality standards. We had a really good robust discussion on QAQI and how hospitals tend to have certain standards for M&M, which is their version of morbidity and mortality. It's their version of QAQI. So we're going to coordinate with Dr. Harris, just get some ideas of just some best practices and continue to build the committee. So we're doing really robust discussions, but it was a really good segue into the rest of our cases and discussions for the meeting. Northwell, Dr. Devin Howell, if you guys don't know, is field physician in Nassau County. He was representing Northwell today from the RSI side. So as we had mentioned at the previous meeting, Northwell EMS was provisionally approved to be an RSI agency. And there were some just outstanding questions we were working on. So for the first question at Northwell and Dr. Howell are agreeing that all of the data will get presented to us through the eBridge platform, same as everybody else. So that way everyone's on the same standard and we're getting all the data in one. We have lots of really good airway data now that we need to crunch. I've been talking to Dr. Gasupta and we were talking to a couple other folks, and I was saying if Northwell want to get involved, we really do need to get some people involved so we can start getting some really good best practices out of that data. So we're going to continue working on that. Also, Northwell has their difficult airway course, which we have already accepted, meets the standard for a difficult airway course. And they're looking to possibly add on our regional credentialing course as part of that course. And we're just gonna sit down with them and make sure that if that's the case, that the standards are met and that everyone's on the same standard. We want to make sure that any agency that's doing this is meeting the same standards as any other agency. So we're gonna have a little more discussion on that, but with very good building blocks to that. So I think we should be moving forward. Did I cover everything okay? But then we reviewed an RSI case. Very good case. It was a very difficult one. There are a lot of lessons learned. We talked about, agencies mutual aiding each other. Under new business, I'm going to ask for permission to send a letter from the REMAC and the Airway Committee to Communications Bureau and to Firecom. During this call, one agency requested another agency for assistance, and that's the first time that it happens. We just want to make sure we define that so the dispatching centers know what that means. There were a couple other lessons learned in making sure that the home agency uses that specific monitor for better data collection and quality control. The highlights that were really good is that it was a very sick patient and they did all of the care en route. So basically the medic got there, they picked up this very sick patient and did all of their ALS procedures and airway procedures en route and did not wait or stay on scene, which was seen to be a very positive thing, that they were not waiting for the medic, and that when the medic got there, they immediately rapidly transported because the patient was so sick. So that was looked as a positive. And then we just want to probably figure out some best practices of agencies working together, and we'll continue to talk about that as a group. But it was good that we had some good discussion on those topics, since we had a case where one agency had called another agency yet. So that's good discussion to make sure that we are doing that properly. Had a good discussion with our friends from EAP, Chris Airy and Dr. Barrios, about good handoffs. We want to make sure that that when we're doing a handoff of a patient, we're giving the right information, we're showing the end title, we're making sure that the hospital team understands what happened with the fire in the field. So we're going to have a working group that's going to sit down and get some best practices on that. And EAB is developing some of their own, and we're hoping to adopt their best practices as ours with this working group, and then bring it to the full group to discuss. And that'll involve waveform and title and video scopes and a few other things that we didn't get a chance to talk to today, but really would be good for discussion and good for the order. And that's what we're trying to get out of the Airway Committee is this kind of information, so we're all doing the best care we can in the county. So that was good. And then pretty much the number of people on our committee were mostly, we have a pretty robust committee right now. We have one more person that's going to come on as a non-voting member that we agreed upon. We really do encourage and appreciate all of the input. It has really been just such a good grassroots effort over the past 2-3 years in developing all of this. So we still want your input, people engaged, but we're probably at a good size right now. That doesn't mean to say that if you don't want to be part of, say, the working group on best practices or whatever, or help us with the data, we're still looking for plenty of people to help us out. So please continue to reach out if you have ideas of how we can help, and we'll continue to work with everyone to put the best foot forward for the county. And honestly, they just appreciate again all the work and the fact that everyone comes a good hour and a half before, so we have a really nice conversation. It's just very appreciated, and just shows how far we've come and how good we're doing. So thank you, everybody, on that.
We're just cruising here. All right, any questions for Airway team? Our protocols.
So we had no issues, so we didn't have a meeting.
Great. Credentials. So the annual agency medical director attestation that was due by 11:59 on 1/31. Happy to say one more time, mine is one agency. I almost say we're at 100% because that one agency is already a BLS agency. There's just one agency that didn't get the document to us. And so we're waiting to hear back from them. But all the ALS agencies have submitted the documentation. The one agency is Roslyn Highlands, and they may not be providing services anymore. So we're trying to clarify whether or not it's a fallout. So we were at either 99.9 or 100% compliance. So, thank you to everybody for getting those documents in. On policy, Dr. Bramanti, had asked for, to be excused due to work obligations, so there's, no report provided. So RTAC, where's none? You're up.
We had a letter submitted to replace or fill their void. Waiting on a CV from them for that.
So that's a letter submitted to the REMSCO for the RTAC position. It was submitted by somebody from the RTAC, but they have to be a Nassau resident. We're waiting to confirm their residency status. And then the REMSCO can approve of their position. That was the only other business. There's no other movement.
Sarah, anything?
Right here, yeah. He's from Suffolk County. I don't know. He didn't respond. I know he requested for the CV and his address. He didn't respond, so I'm not really sure.
Right.
But I would be the alternate. I am from Nassau County. I work at National Medical Center and I live in East Meadow. But he wanted to be the primary, so that's the reason why we sent the letter.
Right, but I think the law says that in order to be a member of, that's why I can't sit on the REMSCO, only the REMAC, because I live on the border, but I still live in Suffolk County.
No, he's
So he's-
he's fully aware of
Yeah.
that, because Don had read the bylaws at the RTAC meeting, so he's aware of
Okay.
that. I don't know if he's in the process of getting an apartment in Nassau County. I have no idea, because he didn't respond, so I don't
Okay,
know.
so, all right, so that's just it's a question mark at this point.
Okay.
So that's is there any other business that the RTAC wants to present to the REMAC for consideration? No? All right, thank you. Any questions for the RTAC? All right, moving on. So, eBridge Communications, I just have a couple of numbers and then I'll chime in. First, thanks to Don and Josh. Don for getting that, for keeping on the eBridge folks for getting that SPO2 thing added on. They're putting it in the training side and then the working side.
Just the email says effective Monday morning.
Oh, great. So hopefully, so they say Monday morning.
I know what the
I'm going
email
to bed.
says.
All right, so look for it on Tuesday. Just the eBridge usage from 2024. Even though it's maybe used 50% of the time, or maybe, it's a third of the time, because we have about 150,000 calls a year. In 2024, we've had 52,979 uses of eBridge. That's how many times an ambulance is notified or made notification, which is pretty freaking phenomenal. I'd say that, so we're a third of the way there. Hopefully this year we'll see that double. And as people become more accustomed to it, become more comfortable to it. In 2024, there were 513 video consults. And in January, we're already at 22. So that's really great. In January, for the number of eBridge calls, we're at 5,008. So it's basically, even though it's a little less than a tenth or 12, it's 1/10 of the total volume from last year. So hopefully we'll keep banging it out.
David, there was
Yeah.
more medical control, the video conferences
Yeah,
that was,
typically it's for medical control. I didn't parse it out.
okay, I was just,
But it can be the hospital calling the unit and
Oh,
the
okay.
unit just giving a
Direct
notification. Sometimes it's easier to have a two-way chat
okay, cool.
when you're in the back by yourself and you just put video conference. And you could have a conversation with the receiving ER, letting them know what you're doing, what's going on, and then just keeping answering messages because you're busy.
That's cool.
So I didn't parse out whether or not it was medical control or not, but it's great. It's being used. It's being used for what it's being intended. So I hope the hospitals are receiving it too. Anything else on eBridge, Josh?
No, was it?
All right, thank you.
eBridge question?
Yeah.
So just as a provider, I don't know if, just going forward, just looking for
improvement, can we start considering looking at it, getting the data from our monitors automatically put in? I know it can't happen tomorrow. I know there's technology issues and everything else. But maybe we can just start looking at it as a,
So we have a meeting with eBridge on the 11th. That's about new technology that they have. The technology is starting with, instead of typing in the patient demographics, you could barcode scan their driver's license. It puts it all into eBridge. And remember, this is all HIPAA protected. So it doesn't stay on your phone. It doesn't go to your phone. It goes into the eBridge ethos. And then the hospital will get that information and they could actually pre-register the patient based on that demographic of that driver's license. So, right, so eventually we'll try to get the stuff to upload, but there's some systems that won't upload. You know, it's just like getting your monitor data to upload to your PCR, which would be even better. You know, this brand doesn't want to talk to this brand, and because Stryker has their own communication software, they don't want to do general devices. So it
just a point of it, maybe we can just start looking at it, is my point.
right,
I don't need them. I'm being parochial, but I don't want to say I don't care about them being registered, but I'm in the back of the ambulance. I've got to communicate what I'm bringing in.
right.
I'll get them registered later on.
Of course, no, I understand, but there is
Okay.
a shift towards making things a little bit easier.
Sure.
And that's
Thank you.
part of it. The other thing with the barcode scanning is in an MCI, you can give patients these wristbands with barcodes on them, scan them, and that'll help you track the patient. So it has multiple uses. Lastly, if you wanted to, you could barcode scan the patient's hospital band when the patient arrives in the hospital, and that'll marry the patient's MRN to the eBridge report to make it easier in the retrospectoscope for the hospital to actually go back and look at the eBridge report on the DScribeX server. And then find the patient in eBridge. So if they have a stroke or a STEMI or a trauma and they need that pre-hospital notification, they can get that. So it works in hospital for MCI and out of hospital. So it's a great system. All right, so that's eBridge. Remsco, Chairman David Caldor.
No report, sir.
No report. That's the best report ever. Easy to type.
Next one.
Yeah. All right, so the Nassau County ED Committee, Chairman Dana Cortopassi.
Thank you. Just going off of your diversion question earlier, we did meet with a few of the sites. They were sharing their best practices about diversion. That was about 2 months ago, but we want to move forward with meeting and talking about diversion and those best practices that we can adopt. Todd will be helping me with the ED committee, so thank you. And I do currently have an alternate, but I'll just make sure with her that she is available to help support meetings. And if not, I'll send out a message to ask if anybody else is interested in becoming an alternate, which you do have to be a nurse for that, for the nurse manager position. That's it.
Okay, thank you for the brief report. EMS Coordinator, Don Hudson.
Well, and that's where the brief report's at. So, just in the EMS coordinators report, again, if you're not getting them directly from your agency manager as intended, reach out to that manager and find out why. They're also posted publicly for all to see. So if that's not working for you, go to nassems.org and they're all there for you. In there of note, the region, or actually the state EMS awards are open. They have to come to the region first, so those criterion forms are in there. Please get them in. There's a deadline that's looming so that we can process them on the regional level and then upload them to the state to make the state awards. Protocol changes for July are also in there. Just a reminder of how protocols, the collaborative protocols are updated. There's proposals in the preceding year. They're voted on in December, become effective January, but their deadline for implementation is July 1st. So July 1st, 2025, there'll be a new set of protocols. The change log is in the EMS coordinators report. The protocols will be uploaded to the state website once they're formatted for that. Also in there, so it's budget time. So what that means, to refresh your memory, is within the governor's budget each year is legislative changes. unlike we probably all learned watching Schoolhouse Rock, a bill doesn't always become law through the normal procedures of senates and stuff like that. So in New York State, some of those laws become laws in the budget. So in the budget this year are 3 parts applicable to EMS changes. So part B is in boy, O is in Oscar, R is in Romeo. Those are in there. Rather than reading the full 4,000-page document, it's as abridged as could be possible. So that's in there. Also, this Friday in the Met Coordinator's Report, bless you, we'll have a 2024 end of year synopsis of the metrics that we know. That includes overall e-bridge uses broken down by type, total number of PCRs correctly submitted by agency, and overall call volume as reported by each agency in the annual survey. So lastly, closing that annual survey, that along with the medical director forms is something implemented in the region a number of years back, simply so that we can glean some data. So not only in there is the question about monitor uploading, about whether you have access to our communications frequencies, whether you're using emergency medical dispatch, not for any other reason other than so we sort of know where we stand when we have these conversations and know where we want to get to and see what resources, training, and finances that may involve. So, you know, we know more now about the system or our own region than we ever did. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a step in the right direction. So happy to take questions. Thanks for your time.
Any questions? We are just banging through. This is great. Anybody from the fire marshal's office? Report. Unfinished business, e-bridge updates, we got at Pulse Ox, we got driver's license, barcode scanning, bracelet scanning, diversion letter. It's gonna be mentioned, the OLMC tag. Chairman Mackey was gonna lead that tag. I got a bunch of letters seeking permission to join the tag. It's an open tag to anybody who sits here. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 requests to join, which is great. So hopefully we'll have our first meeting in maybe even next month before or this month or next month before the REMS go, just to sort of get the ball rolling. If you're interested, please reach out to me or Don, and we'll add you to the emails. If you're not interested, well, then don't reach out, but then don't complain. That's one part of old business quality. So sort of mentioned the quality committee is sort of on hiatus. The chairman has stepped down. Diversion discussion we had. Okay, so wow, that really. No, so Dave Silver's gonna be the interim chair till the quality meeting meets, just to get the meeting going, and the quality committee will, based on the bylaws, appoint or elect. And then you guys will bring it to us, right? Okay, so new business regarding the midterm vacancy of the REMAC secretary, Dr. Zazzo. The bylaws state Article 7, REMAC Regional Medical Advisory Committee, Section 2, officers, elections. In the event of a vacancy in any office, it shall be announced at a regular meeting that at the following regular meeting, a special election shall be held to fill the balance of the term. Such partial terms shall not be considered for a term of office for the purposes of Section 4 of this article. So, under new business, I'd like to create the slate for the elections for next REMAC meeting, which would be in April. Just to start the ball rolling, I'd like to nominate Dr. Newbert to fill the position. If you're willing to, do I have anybody else that's willing or want to nominate themselves or someone else for the position of secretary?
Do you want to know who's not here so you can nominate somebody?
Yeah.
Does that need a second?
Yeah, it's a motion. So my motion is,
Second.
all right. Any other nominations?
He beat me to it.
Okay, I just need a motion to close the nomination.
Vote.
Thank you, everybody.
Why you have that look on your face?
Who's Alice?
I understand.
Was that like a, thank you, everyone?
Yeah, thanks. I'll see you later.
Democracy in action.
A secretary. I gotta type this up, I'm sorry. Yeah, but he's not the secretary. Motion to close.
So just to stall for time procedurally, if there's an uncontested, since it's a special election, do you want me to print up a ballot or do you want to cast one ballot? We don't do it now, but I'm not looking to kill trees if we don't have to.
One ballot.
Majority here, I don't think.
Yeah, there's like 90% of the membership.
So I will not print ballots.
Okay, great. All right, so just remind me to make sure.
I second you now.
Business.
Thank you.
Okay, and then,
I'll send you a revote.
Sure.
so just from Airway and then,
Oh, yeah, so from Airway, we just wanna, approval of the REMAC to reach out to Communications Bureau and Firecom to find what an RSI medic request would be and, advise them so they understand what that process is. I can handle that. Okay with
Airway
that.
to,
Just on the question, do you want to make it to all PSAPs? That way we-
Oh, yeah, it'll all be steps, that's even better. Yep, yeah, because it's like 12 or 14 of them, right?
Times 3.
to clarify
I'll send it out to all PSAPs, yes.
the definition.
Terminology is universal.
Yes.
RSI medic.
RSI medic, yeah.
Is the phrasing.
And to, request mutual aid.
Do the PSAPs
All
know
right, so I
where-
need a
where to
second
go
on the
for-
motion.
Do the PSAPs know, they can understand the request for the RSI? But are you going to advise them also which agencies are RSI?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, I need a second.
Would that be best broadcasted on the website as well as
Sure, we
is?
could publish post the letter on the website.
I think that's a good. idea.
More work done.
Yeah, so actually, on the back end of the website, one of the columns you don't currently see, because we never really used it, is listing of agency, RSI, yes, no, and on our credential providers, RSI, yes, no. So we could post that sorted by yes.
Okay, so, all in favor for having the REMAC submit a letter written by Dr. Newbert to the PSAPs, defining what an RSI agency is,
RSI medic.
RSI medic is, thank you. Okay, all against? Thank you. Anybody abstain? Okay, so it passes. Right, and then voted on the secretary thing we did. And then- Yeah. We want to do.
Oh, no, they're already done. We were just clarifying it.
Good.
Yeah, no, they're already approved. We just had to, that was the question. He was just asking if we had to do anything else with that motion, but no, we're just clarifying those points because that was already voted on last time. We're good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a provisional pending approval. for
Right,
that
so now we
second
fixed the
item.
e-bridge problem. It's just the last piece of how they're doing their class, but that's easy. We're moving forward, so we're good.
You'll get it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Do you have to do it again? Do you think it could be,
You just-
Okay, all right, so, I wanted to, make a motion to request for consideration for this committee to start discussing. We'll bring forth to their PSAPs that they have affiliations with, the requirement for all PSAPs in the region to use EMD. As I mentioned in my chairman's report. And, as was kindly provided to me by our all-knowing, EMS coordinator, there's a couple of places in regulation and policy where this recommendation exists. Recommendation number 13 in the New York State EMS white paper that was just put out is to have EMD at all PSAPs. And then within Article 30, it says that dispatch entities fall under performance standards, which and it says, Section 3004, Emergency Medical Services Systems and Agency Performance Standards, the State Emergency Medical Services Council, and with input from the Regional Emergency Medical Services Councils, in collaboration with and final approval from the department shall create emergency medical services system and agency performance standards, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it says that we could create performance standards and initiatives and things that improve patient care so that it falls within the purview of this body to sort of start doing that. So we have legal backing to look at EMD and requiring it. There's a whole list of regulations. I don't want to read the whole thing, but if you want, I can send somebody the reference. So I'm bringing it forward as a motion. I just need it seconded so that we could start it. Thank you, Dr. Shearson. All right, and so my motion would be for this committee to investigate and look at this and for everybody to bring it forward. So motion made.
Motion was to explore it.
Yes, to explore it, not to implement
Not
it.
to mandate it.
Right,
just to
right.
explore.
It's to explore it. Second.
Explore. Moving forward.
Okay, anybody, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Okay, thank you. So we're just keeping our feet on the gas pedal, keeping that needle all the way pinned to the right, so we keep moving the region forward, which is really great. So thank you for letting me do that. Unanimous approval.
Dr.
Question.
Yeah,
Dr. David Cooper.
you can't say Dr. David.
DK, I mean, whatever.
You can't say Dave, it's too many.
I know, hey you. Just, would it be, just because there's a lot, this is a great idea, and I think to your point, highly evidence-based, at least in the adult literature and the youth literature, it's sort of hasn't been tourist out, but probably won't hurt. Does it make sense, given there's a lot of considerations about the need for this medical oversight for most of these programs? There's an expense with some of these programs, so yeah, do we want to make it part of this motion, like a recommendation for a tag to kind of get together and start gathering sort of the basic fundamentals that have just fallen?
Sure, and now that we've approved it, so we can create a tag to explore all those things, including the medical direction component of it. Absolutely. Would you like to share that tag?
Isn't that how you end up?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
That sounds like
Okay.
new business on new business. That's good.
Dr. Harris will share the tag.
I
Congratulations.
second.
Welcome. John, can I join?
Am I?
All those in favor of the
Any
tag?
other questions?
Can I vote twice?
You have to approve the tag. and then you have to-
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. David, every good deed goes punished. All right, and
Doc,
then
just to that, so increasingly people pay attention,
I'm running out
so
of ink.
both CB and Firecom both reached out wanting to know what is that and why is it on REMAC's agenda, so we already explained that to them, that it's the beginnings of conversations, there's no imminent mandates, obviously.
He knows.
It's a question, not a answer, there's finances and training and long-term planning that would obviously go with that, so for anyone else out there listening.
We
That's
understand. the
Dr. Matthew
sensitivities.
Harris.
You know, Steve Cooper at North.
Yeah, thank you.
But just to make this an interesting point, when we went through this in Denver with the Denver Metro, it's sort of the equivalent of the REMAC. There was a slew of PSAPs in the non-region. There's grant funding out there for it. And a lot of that was local grant funding, because I know this was obviously federal reasons, but I do think that if it is something that this entire body supports and moves forward with, I think certainly, you know, the heavy lift is the cost of the software, the training. The oversight is not really a financial burden, but I think we were able to get it across the Intermountain region within that funding as an early lift.
Sweet.
Totally agree. And DeepSeek will do it for us anyway. AI is doing it, so we might as well catch up to that.
If you don't want to ask Siri how to do.
No.
All right, that's great.
Yes. All right, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck, sorry.
One thing, as you brought that, Dr. Harris brought that up as the outgoing, chairman, something to consider, and as most, most of us sat, around the table and stuff here for about 3 years, going through, committee, here in the county with the TIG, and I'm wondering if it's time, as we've had meetings, both with state, local, and county, people here, that the REMAC as well as the REMSCO, and I know it'll come up at next month's REMSCO meeting, formulate a letter and stuff to find out where the report and stuff and where the responses to the recommendations that a bunch of people and stuff from all different agencies and all different areas of the county and stuff sat down and promulgated that report, once again, with recommendations for EMD, for dispatch, for prioritization, and once again, to streamline the process. And to date, we've gotten no response back regarding that report. It is out there, and I think that maybe the REMAC council, once again, the executive board, as well as the REMSCO executive board, sit down and send a letter and stuff, both to the county administration and to the legislature and stuff, to see if a public hearing and stuff is warranted to release that report, and once again, to come up with the recommendations, which encompasses all the things that we've been talking about over the past 3 years, and once again, has not been addressed. This is the third time an audit has been done here in the county. As you know, 35 years ago, Navianca occurred, and once again, minimal progress on multiple different fronts regarding that with MCI until we built the new program and stuff for that. But I think it's important now that might help push this forward, get it into the mainstream, get it to the legislature as well as to the county administration and the local officials and stuff. Because it has been proposed in the budget on the state level in the past, and I'm sure that at some point here in the near future, it's gonna become a mandate and stuff, and we should be ahead of the curve on that.
So, Mr. Ex-Chairman, did you want to make a motion?
I would make a motion once again that the executive board of both REMAC and REMSCO once again meet to formulate a letter to be sent to the county, local officials, the legislature, to find out what the status is on the report that was generated through the committee from 2022 through 2024.
Great. Do I have a second on the motion from the chairman? Okay. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Sending a letter? Okay, anybody opposed? Great. Anybody abstain? Passes unanimously. Great.
And then, okay with that, I just wanted to bring up a thought, and I'm not sure if it's a motion or just a thought, but like, we have all these really good regional initiatives, right, like programs and all these things we're doing, RSI, IGEL, like tags, EMD. Do we just, I don't know how to state this, but do we want to like make it clear that regional policies and procedures have to be met before you can move forward on extra credit activities? If that makes sense, or I don't know how I'm explaining it, I'm not explaining it that well, but just to ensure that like everything we're doing has been really good and we're really pushing quality, so I just want to make sure that we maintain that if we're looking into other things. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, or if that's just me, pontificating or opining.
Minimal required standards. So you're saying?
Yeah, basically that, if regional policies and procedures need to be followed if you want to do more advanced things, like RSI or the things that you need specific approval for. That way we just confirm that this has all been a very good process that we're on, and that we've set really good standards, and we want to make sure that we keep those standards and that we keep moving forward.
I would just recommend, instead of saying that, because it should be intuitive that underpins everything that we're doing. That's based on quality, and to move it forward for the benefit of the communities that we're serving.
Yes.
Maybe what we should do instead is that when we do allow these new committees to form, and we're looking towards advancing, that we do make sure that we communicate that this is all about establishing a base that everyone's responsible for, and then elevating from that base.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go out and make a separate statement that.
That's fine. I mean, we've just been getting really good buy-in, and I like the path we're going in, and I just want to
I
continue
agree.
going that way. I think we've made huge strides and that we're doing really well, so.
And I agree, and I think what you said is great, and we should just continue to remind ourselves of that. That's why we're here, so that we can keep moving forward.
Do you want to make a motion on that or anything?
I don't think it's a motion. Yeah.
Listen, I'm just one voice. I just think that, it should be intuitive to what we do. It should be an underpinning of what we do. I don't know that we need to restate it in such a way, other than to remind ourselves that, we exist here based on what's appropriate, what's appropriate from a quality perspective, not empiric.
And it's appreciated. Everyone's doing a great job.
I mean, I don't see the harm in standardizing the verbiage and saying, these are the minimal required standards of the committee. You can go above and beyond only after you've met these quality standards.
Right.
It's just formalizing
Did you
what
want
our
to make that
guidance
into a
is.
motion?
I'm struggling with, we're telling everybody they need to follow the rules.
Yes,
Hmm.
and if you want to be considered for additional, uh, things like if you want to have BLSI gel, if you want to do, syringe epinephrine, actually syringe epinephrine now is in the protocol. If you want to do, 12, your BLS 12 leads, if you want to,
So is there a suggestion that we're not following the rules on some of the things that we have?
It sounds like a committee mission statement more than anything.
Yeah, and that's where I was going, something like, if we want to umbrella this around everything that we do, I think it's great, like.
so, yeah, if you want to, so if you have to comply with the regional policy and procedure, so you can get the next thing that you want.
Yeah, I just don't want to undermine all the great work that you guys have been doing,
No, it's really
this
good.
body has been doing by saying, okay, now we're gonna, please make sure that you follow the rules so that we, going forward, we follow the rules. As in,
We know you're all
like in the
following.
past, we didn't follow the rules.
Right, we also, I think we have to be careful, because we're a body that makes exceptions, right, and that's okay, but I think I think we can affirm that as we create these new groups, we're not obviating our base role, which is ensuring that the rules are followed, right, that standards are met, and I think we're on the same page, that you shouldn't go off and do BLSI gel if you're not routinely doing everything else. I don't know if we have to think how far off the beaten path.
But do we want to formalize that? Because when, I'll just use eBridge, like we're at only 33% eBridge usage for our 150,000 transports. If your agency is on that 33% usage, versus agencies that are not using it, you should be rewarded by allowing to get things that you're asking for. Whereas if your agency just doesn't use it at all, I would say, well, you're not complying with the requirement, which is making a notification via eBridge, or, in case of an emergency, using some other means. If you're not making these notifications, why should we allow you to do something else? And so I think that's sort of what Dana was getting to, but, Josh.
I think we're just opening up a larger can here of punishment.
But it's not a punishment, it's sort of a carrot instead of a stick.
Well,
Here's the, you perform well here, it will give you what you want. As opposed to saying, beating you over the head and saying, I want you to stick to the rules and follow the rules. Because we have no means of,
no, we have a means, that's what we're here for.
right, but, yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I just have a quick, so too, you're using, it sounds like at one point you're talking about the agencies, another point you're talking about committees. I'm not sure, it sounds like you're talking more about agencies getting these extra activities.
Right, so when an agency applies for, it comes to
Right,
this
no,
committee.
okay. So I just want to be clear, you said you're using interchangeably committees and agencies, you're talking about agencies, correct?
Yes,
The other question is,
at least that's what I thought.
if we're talking about minimal standards, like if you have to meet isn't it true that you should have to meet those minimal standards just to practice in the county, let alone have an extra
You
task
should.
you can complete?
But so just a little bit of history, the state has sort of neutered the regions in terms of their ability to withdraw things once they give them out.
Right.
And so what we're doing is we want to slow the process of approval to just take one more step towards getting to that approval, saying, have you complied with regional policy? And you're applying for this additional thing? Great, we'll bring it up to the committee. If you haven't met this low hurdle of simply making your notifications or, carrying the minimum required equipment or getting your PCRs uploaded in a timely fashion, if you're not meeting that hurdle, then why should we allow you to do more when you're just gonna have less data for us to look at when we need to be able to look at more
It
data?
just seems if we should be looking at them as whether they can function as agencies, as they're not
Right.
meeting those hurdles, let alone doing extra things.
Correct, but unfortunately, that's what we're waiting for the Division of Legal Affairs to come back to tell us what our ability is, so that if we do need the stick instead of the carrot, we can have one, but right now we don't have one. The only thing we have is the carrot. And so we'd like to offer that to people in a way that makes it so that they want to comply with the regional policy. Yeah, Matt.
Just a comment that I'm gonna beg everyone's forgiveness. I've got to go to a clinical shift. So if anyone wants to write me a note, so I have to go to work, that's fine too.
You know,
Need doctor's note?
Any doctor's note.
I think you have a fever.
From a real doctor.
You look sick, Matt.
This
The,
comment will make you
I'm gonna
sick.
dig it myself. So two things. I think there's a stepwise approach to this, right? Why don't we start off by like, as we, when the minutes from this meeting go out, or as we come up with new initiatives, we remind people that it's important to engage in the routine work of VMS oversight and quality, et cetera, and before we come out and say carrot or stick while we figure this out. My word of caution here is, if, for example, if the PSAP EMD thing becomes something that we all, after research, go, this is a great idea because it's good for patients, right? And then secondarily, it's good for systems, and then after that, it's just good for whatever. Let's be careful that we're not gonna start excluding maybe the smaller agency out there that has like that one doc and that one medic. I mean, you guys can all make fun of me saying it's coming from North Pole, lots of resources, but like, let's be careful. We don't. I think that there are agencies that comply with everything. There are agencies that struggle to comply. So I think let's give them a chance with encouragement, whether it's through a mission statement or through a gentle reminder that as we continue to be a progressive county, moving the needle, moving forward, it's important to continue to focus on the basics, including X, Y, and Z. We appreciate your engagement. That would be my middle ground, non-committal thought. So,
I just, one more comment. So this implies we have the mechanism to track all of these metrics for every agencies individually. Is that something that's in place?
It depends on the metric. Some metrics we do, some metrics we don't. eBridge is a simple example of
yeah, I just need some of that.
that because we have the numbers on that server, right? If we could look at the overall number of estimated overall number of transports based on PCRs completed or PCRs that are held up versus the number of eBridge notifications. And when we look at that data, there's a big discrepancy. There's about 150,000 PCRs transmitted for the year that happen to be for EMS calls that occur within the region, and only 50,000 notifications. So there's 100,000 transports that there's no notification for.
Is the standard that every sprained ankle needs an e-bridge? Is it?
Yes,
is the
that is
standard
the
that
regional
everyone should
policy.
be reported,
That is-
or just?
That's the policy that this body voted
Okay.
on, passed and approved, that every transport. And that's why we modified eBridge so that there's a low priority button. That that's not mandatory, the hospital doesn't have to acknowledge it. The hospital's not gonna get a follow-up phone call if they don't acknowledge it. That they just hit the button, and this way, it allows medical control and the hospital to know that not only are they getting an ambulance with a patient with an ankle sprain, the ambulance with the cardiac arrest is coming in at the same time, and they can maybe let the people with the ankle sprain know, hey, we're getting a cardiac arrest. Maybe you could bring that patient to triage.
So I guess where I was going was, I think if we're gonna make any kind of negative action, we're gonna have to have metric standards, a report card for each agency to track, which is a significant undertaking.
Well, I wasn't making it a negative action, I was more of making it like a positive one, saying, if you comply, you can get what you want. If you don't comply, then you ask for something, you may not get it.
Right, but we still need a tracking mechanism that's
Sure,
accurate
sure.
and standards and.
So-
Dave,
Would-
there's another comment.
Yeah, John.
It makes no sense on the face of it. I mean, what are you gonna do? Give points to each thing and you're making rules to make rules. Like Josh said, just get the agencies to do what they're supposed to do. If they wanna do something extra, that's good, let them do it. Why would you stop them from doing it? That doesn't make any sense to me. Just give my 2 cents.
So using that logic, just to go,
Let's hear everybody did.
yeah, okay, Alan, thank you.
Not that I disagree with some type of minimal standards, but, you're using this as a carrot, becomes a stick when you say no.
Right.
So you need to be able to justify that. Or enforce it, or support the judgment that you're saying no when you're saying yes to somebody else. And given the current climate, until we hear back from the attorneys, I wouldn't go there.
I would, if I may.
Okay, please.
So I think what Dr. Newbert had to offer is wise. Sure. All embrace the idea that as a fundamental foundation for this, what we do is that quality needs to be there. So then maybe to take sort of the heat out of the discussion, because we could spend on this new business item probably hours of philosophical discussion as to why it would work or why it shouldn't work. I think that maybe our quality committee can look at the quality that's going on and make sure that we establish good quality and maintain good quality. And if not, then it has to be brought forward and then we can take action. And I would just be cautious because, again, I don't want anything to be perceived as a punishment. We're not
No,
trying
this
to,
would gonna be a good thing.
we're not trying to
doing a
punish
good job.
anybody.
just wanna
We really just
keep doing
want
that.
everybody to be a benefit of something. Some people are gonna adopt things quicker than others for many different reasons. And so I would be cautious. I'm just, again, this is my own opinion. I'd be cautious as a body to go out there with a statement that we now need to, move forward with quality as if we didn't move forward with quality, because I can assure you, we've been moving forward with quality as a backbone from the beginning. That's.
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job.
I hope that made sense to everybody. It was a little roundabout way. I think this lives in quality anyway, and.
Dan, is that all right?
I don't think.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
even
no,
close.
I'm just thinking of it as what you said, everybody's doing really well, so.
Yes.
Here's where we are, here's our baseline, and if we're not at that, it's more of a supportive thing, what can we help you with, not necessarily that
Right.
you're not gonna get it, it's, as a county, we want 100% of E-Bridge calls in E-Bridge. You're at 33%, how can we help you?
And there's a
Yeah,
bell
that's
curve
great.
in the
That's
world,
good.
right? We all
Right.
live in a
Yeah,
bell
great.
curve. So if we give the person who's 99th percentile, you give them everything, and the person who's 95th percentile, sorry, I didn't do so
Right.
well today.
But I mean, we just did that with Airway. Northwell had a way they were doing it, and now we figured out how to make their thing align with what we want so that we're on the same page. I mean, that's the idea. That's,
Okay, all right, so it's great discussion. Sorry that, at least we discussed it.
yeah. Oh, we almost forgot, Belmar Merrick has a new, medical director. We have the, it's in the minutes.
Is it?
Yeah,
Right.
It was in your incoming.
Geez, thanks. I didn't put it in here, that's why. I have to be consistent in my note taking.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We forgot
I remember
something.
seeing the email.
Yes, we forgot something.
I'm told the new secretary will be really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the new secretary, from the new
Okay,
secretary.
so, Belmar Merrick had a change in their agency medical director January 1st. Dr. David Silver is gonna be their new medical director, right? So you're already a vetted REMAC member, medical director in the region. So pro forma, we just have to approve you as the agency medical director for Belmar Merrick.
Make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Josh, a second. Okay, all in favor? All against? Abstain, okay, unanimous.
He abstained, he's very smart. You can vote for yourself.
It's not gonna matter.
Okay, great. Was there anything else? BLS? Okay, I forgot, thank you for making me look at this. So Belmore Fire Department was downgraded to BLS under the incoming because they had a controlled substance issue. Don, did that get resolved yet?
Unknown.
Fixed?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right, so Belmore Fire Department, for your information, is still BLS due to controlled substance issue.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
So the state used to send out notices when your Bureau of Narcotics Enforcement registration expires. They sent us a notice, they never sent out notices, then they send us a notice that we don't have to send out notices. So it's up to each individual agency to check their Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement for New York State to make sure you didn't expire.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is a self-enforcement that we found.
Oh, that's wild.
And when we called the state, they said, yeah, well, we don't have to notify you guys anymore. You're supposed to pull up like your own car registration or inspection,
Oh, that's
whatever it is. You're supposed to notify yourself. So I would recommend you go back and check your certificates for New York State Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement.
So is that tied to the DEA?
No,
No.
separate and
No,
distinct.
it's a separate license.
So it's
Yeah,
not
do we
tied-
have DEA numbers, but you also need to have, if you.
I know you have the agency, the B&E numbers, but they don't tie it together.
No, not tied together, and they stopped sending out notices.
Can't have one without the other. What kind of logic? I'm sorry, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, like.
Not even a doctor.
Yeah, yeah, come on.
Because you can't have one without the other.
You know,
Yes, you can.
Just check your
I'm just
numbers.
coming up with a solution on the fly.
Okay, thank you for that information. Is there anything else for the REMAC of the good of the order?
Motion to adjourn.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Good meeting. Thanks.